I've got a kind of maybe a two-part backstory question. When Brendan Rivers, Bloodraven, cleared the path for Egon, was his exile to the wall a wink and a nod, or a devastating political punishment?
It was not a wink and a nod. You know, it's what Bloodraven did was pretty unethical, and you could even count it as evil, although, you know, by his lights necessary, and, you know, something that probably put Aegon V's reign on a sound basis, but at great cost to his own personal honor. And I think to clear the way, Aegon had to get rid of Bloodraven.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Sarah.
Hi.
I was wondering, what's one question that you always sort of hope somebody will ask you at these sorts of things? And would you mind answering it?
I have many questions that I wish people would not ask me at this stage. But a question I'm actually dying to be asked, you know, I don't really have one.
Okay, well, how about the things you don't want people to ask?
Who's my favorite character? When will the next book be out? Where do you get your ideas? Yada, 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 yada. You know, the same old questions that I get asked all the time.
Thank you.
My least favorite question, of course, is you know, who's going to finish the books when you die? Which I do get from time to time, and I've been known to react to that testily.
Thank you.
My question is this: Hodor?
Hodor.
Hi, my name is Jacob. I think the beginning of Game of Thrones ends with, you know, all the characters, they all die in the prologue, and I was wondering, do you think that's a risky strategy to open a book that way, or, you know, what's the best way to hook your readers or grab your readers by opening the opening scenes?
Well, it worked pretty well, so it can't have been too risky. You
can't argue with success.
The result has been pretty good. You know, there's no set answer to that. If there was one single way to open a book, everybody would be using it, and all books would open the same way. But you do have to hook your reader, and that's true particularly for new writers. I mean, if you're trying to sell your story, short story, you're sending out to the magazines or the anthologies, you know, it better have a strong opening and a strong first page, or the editor is going to reject it, read 2 pages, and then bounce it. You've got to get someone interested there. And that's true to some extent of novels as well, and of the readership when you finally get into bookshops and the stands. If people pick up your book and they're standing at a Barnes & Noble and they're looking through the stacks, and they pick up this book and that book and they look at the first page, and if they see something intriguing, maybe they'll buy the book and take it home, and if not, they won't. Now, when you get established, when you're in a position that I am, or any, you know, established author with a long track record, the readers will cut you a little more slack, because the thing that interests you is the name on the thing. Okay, it's a Stephen King book. I know what Stephen King delivers. Maybe the first page isn't great, but I know he's Stephen King. Sooner or later, it'll get good. But if you're not Stephen King, and you don't have a name, you better make the beginning something powerful and interesting to get the reader into it, or the book is not going to be bought and it's not going to be read.
Hi, I'm Aziz. I have another backstory question. You have created a really diverse backstory that seems like it just merges with the main story so well that it kind of gets hard to keep track of which is which at some point, which is a good thing. I wanted to ask about the character Bittersteel. Daeron II was a king who tried to bring peace to the realm, and it's said that he tried to keep the great bastards close, and we kind of have examples of what he did for Daemon and for Brendan Rivers, but we're not really sure what he did to keep Bittersteel close. Obviously it didn't work, but curious what he tried to do.
Well, I may explore all of this in future things, especially Blood and Fire, the history of Targaryen.
Looking forward to that.
Reign, but it'll be a while before I actually write that. One of the things I'm doing with these things is exploring the concept of what constitutes a good and bad king. And our viewpoint as modern 21st century people is, I think, different from what medieval people, or particularly medieval novels, medieval people would think. You look at a king like Edward II of England. He was the son of Edward I Longshanks, the Hammer of the Scots, the conqueror of Wales, who expanded the thing. But Edward II, he was a big, strapping guy, as big as his father, blonde, very handsome, strong, athletic. But he was not inclined to warfare, and he didn't like jousting or swordplay, which is not to say that he was bookish or sedentary. He liked wrestling. He liked working with his hands. He liked building things and carpentry and thatching roofs and all that. And he didn't like the lords of the realm, who he found arrogant and obnoxious. But he liked the common people. He liked to go out into the villages and associate with the common people. He surrounded himself with commoners who were carpenters or stonemasons, and he was interested in their crafts and how they did their crafts. And we would look at a guy like that and say, hey, this is a pretty cool guy. But the history is he's despised. He's considered the worst king England ever has. Now, there's also a big case that he was gay, and he was homosexual, which is probably part of it, because many of his associates were young men, but he had two particular favorites, Piers Gaveston and so forth. But nonetheless, being warlike in the 21st century is not necessarily a good thing, but it was considered necessary for a king back then. And I'm looking at exploring some of these same kind of issues in Westeros. King Darren II, Darren the Good, was not a warlike king. He was more of an intellectual, and he was interested in peaceful solutions to problems. He was interested in producing economic growth and the prosperity of his realm. But he was surrounded by these bastards, his father's other sons, who were much more formidable swordsmen and warriors and jousters, and who were interested in conquest and glory. And those are the things that people responded to in those days. So.
Thanks.
Let's just hope that the present American electorate doesn't go all medieval in the next election. We can see some of these candidates trying to, win votes by saying how many people they would carpet bomb or how tough they would be. So, yes.
Hi, I'm Ashaya. My question is, considering that Casterly Rock is taller than every skyscraper built in the 20th century, does it happen to have like a series of cages and winches or little elevators or any way to transport things easily?
Well, Casterly Rock is loosely based on the Rock of Gibraltar. Have you ever visited the Rock of Gibraltar? Yeah. It's pretty amazing. Of course, Casterly Rock is bigger. In fantasy, you always turn everything up to 11. But it's not usually bigger, So, go see the Rock of Gibraltar and all that. It's pretty amazing. There are caves down there. There are fortifications. I mean, there were gold mines, and in the Rock of Gibraltar, they tapped out eventually, but it's honeycombed with tunnels, and there are places where they stationed cannons to repel it, and there's a whole theater there, and no winches or elevators, but slanting tunnels and steps carved into the rocks itself, and all sorts of other kinds of cool things.
Thank you.
Matt, just wondering, when in the first book, when the Starks are heading to King's Landing with Ned and Sansa and Arya. You know, Sansa's wolf is killed, and then Arya's goes missing, or she sends it away. I was wondering if there's any kind of symbolism there, like, you know, the Stark within Sansa's dead, or the Stark within Arya is missing, if I'm just reading way too much into that, or, you know.
That's an interesting thing to contemplate, and it's good that you're contemplating it.
Well said.
Arya still has a connection to her wolf, if you read her chapters, she's still having the wolf dreams.
Yeah.
And Nymeria is still roaming the Riverlands at the head of a gigantic pack of other wolves. So, is there something going on there? Who knows? Perhaps.
Thank you.
Just gonna have to wait and read.
Hi, I'm Dee. I just wanted to know, what was the shittiest day job that you've ever had that inspired you to want to, at least, you know, because we wanted to, like, be successful and wealthy and famous, like the one that you really despised?
The shittiest day job I ever had, which I literally had for a day, I was fired at the end of the day, is I was a telephone salesperson for Time Life Books, it was. And you know, I was in a room with like 20 other salespeople, and they gave us lists of phone numbers to call, and we were trying to sell these Time Life books. And we had a script that we were supposed to stick to, and of course, you know, so you're calling up people, you know, hi, Mrs. Smith, you know, I'm George from Time Life Books. We're offering a special premium here on our book about the mysteries of the sea. And at that point, you know, the person would usually hang up, and then I would have to call the next person, and, you know, they would hang up, etc. Occasionally, people would just say, fuck you, get lost, you know, why are you bothering me, or something like that. And that was all bad.
So what did you do to get fired from that?
Well, I didn't sell any books. The whole day went by, and I sold, you know, every time you sold a book, you had to go to the front and put like a star up next to your name, and you had to get to the bottom of the script. I mean, ideally, you wanted like the person to say nothing, and you get through this whole script, and then at the end it was like the last question is, so Mrs. Smith, shall I put you down for your copy? It's only $9.95. And you know, then you would put her down, and they would get a copy and a bill for $9.95, you know. But sometimes you got people, I mean, in addition to the fuck yous and the hang-ups, you would get like old people who were desperate to talk, and you know, then you'd be on the phone for ages with, oh, that sounds very nice. I've always liked fish. Well, I'm glad that you like fish, Mrs. Smith. The Mystery of the Sea has a lot of fish in it. And you'd be doing that, or, you know, and the script is like they trained you that no matter what they said, you were supposed to go back to the script, you know, you had to, you know, and well, I'm sorry, I don't read. I can't read. I never passed reading. Well, there's many fine pictures in the Mysteries of the Sea, and there's pictures of fish, and you know, whales. You like whales?
Buy the book and I'll read it for you.
I'm sorry, but I have cancer. Well, I'm sorry you have cancer, Mrs. Smith, but there are octopuses. It was a pretty horrible job, and I was, you know, very, very glad when I got fired from that job. At the,
I'm so trying to wrap my head around picturing you as a real estate agent.
Yes, well, I'm glad I avoided that one. I never actually did that one.